Hey, superstars, thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Aaron Zakowski, and today I'm chatting with Justin Oberman. Justin is the co founder of Generalist, a creative advisory firm that helps brands who aren't getting what they need from specialists because what they need is the big picture. He's also a student of advertising history and a prolific content creator and ghostwriter on LinkedIn. Hey, Justin, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Yeah. Long overdue.
It's long overdue. I see you every day on my LinkedIn feed because you're getting hundreds of engagements, comments, likes, etc. on your post, and I know you're getting tens of thousands of impressions. So you're a personality there in the LinkedIn scene.
Yeah. It's still a shock to me. Somebody the other day accused
Yeah.
me of gaming it or using pods or something like that. Uh, and I said, the only third party software I use is Toplio, and I have DM groups where we share links and stuff, not just our own. But other than that,
Mhm.
it's uh, it's all completely natural.
Right. Well, it speaks to the quality of the content that you're putting out.
That's it. It's all I focus on. I don't focus on anything else but the quality of each post.
So most of your posts that I read are related to advertising, advertising history, branding. I know you generally think about it more in a consumer sense. This podcast and my work generally we work in a B2B sense. But one of the things I know we've spoken about in the past is that there is some overlap over there. These things actually can play nicely together.
It's more than overlap. I'm one. If, look at the name of my consultancy, Generalists. I'm pretty much fighting the fight of segmentation and fragmentation. I mean, I'm one of those people who it's not about B2B or B2C. It's about P2P. It's always just people to people. You're selling a product or a service to a person, and that's pretty much it. Even on the B2B side, the person on the business side is a consumer. You want them to buy your service, your technology, your whatever. Um, if anything, I actually, it's there's a lot more opportunity to be creative, because it's a smaller niche market. Like, you really know who you're talking to. You could do some really cool things. Um, but yeah, there's definitely overlap.
Uh,
Probably more overlap than people realize.
it's interesting you today. You think there's more opportunities to be creative. When you think about direct to consumer, you take apparel, you take food, you take travel. All these things have so many opportunities to be so creative and fun with it. And yet in B2B, we're selling CRM software or marketing services or whatever else it might be. Doesn't seem nearly as exciting and creative of an industry. So where do you think creativity plays into those more boring industries that we talk about in B2B?
Yeah, I think that it plays in thinking outside of being able to think outside the medium as well. Like, while digital marketing is a great place to advertise your services and and whatnot because of the precision targeting, excuse me, you can do things differently. You can be more bold. You can take risks. You could take chances um, and be silly and stuff like that. In the B2B space, that actually stands out even more because it's sort of more unexpected. Um, you know, every industry has its joker. I like to put it in crypto terms. Every industry has its Dogecoin, or should, right? So you got Bitcoin, then you got the Ethereum, that's kind of like the challenger brand, and then you just have Dogecoin. That's kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to take myself seriously. And that's actually why I invested in Dogecoin when it first came out, because I said every industry needs a joker, and the joke and usually the joker is the one that ends up winning in a weird way.
Mhm.
And so I put money in Dogecoin, did pretty well on it. I think Elon Musk sees this too, in it. So it it has that's where the opportunity to be more creative is. I'll give you an example. And maybe you'll tell me if you think that this is considered B2B. The London Times started a many years ago. They started a legal section in their newspaper, And so they wanted to get more lawyers to subscribe to it. What would you do? Well, you could create, digital ads, right? Saying like, now we have just alerting lawyers to this. What they did is they sent a direct mail piece to the lawyers in envelopes that look like subpoenas. So they opened it. They were
Right.
pissed off. They opened it, but now all the lawyers knew about the legal section of, and like that's super creative. And because you know who you're talking to, because it's like, oh, like it's like magic. You don't have to hire a strategist for that, right? It's like, well, it's like we're a newspaper. We have a legal section. We want lawyers to know about it. Okay, let's find like creative ways of getting people's attention. It's like it's become sort of super simple, right? To not become it's easier to. That's why I say it's almost easier to be more creative.
Hmm.
Um, we know a guy. I don't. Maybe you know him. Sam, a guy who his whole business is propane, and he Flame King. And the way he tells me the story, the way he became big was that he would go to these trade shows, and what he did is he got special carbon underwear for old people that like keeps your farts in, it like filters your farts,
Okay.
and the
Product
back of it,
category I wasn't aware of. Okay.
yeah, in the back of it, he wrote, Flame King, containing your gas since 19 whatever 70, and he just gave them out at the booth, and of course, like people came to his booth because like they wanted that underwear, and it also allowed him to like walk up to people and be like, "Excuse me, do you have my underwear in your room yet?" And like start conversations that way. Product
Uh-huh.
has absolutely nothing to do with his product. Like the underwear has nothing to do with his product, but it got attention. Like attention's like 50% of the game, right? So it's it got attention, and ultimately people buy from people, and people either do something or don't do something based on what they're going to get out of it. And usually, what they want to get out of it is feeling good. So sometimes, really, all you need to do is make somebody feel good. You don't it doesn't even have to be connected to what your product is. Just make somebody feel good, and you will be able to then move that person in the direction that you like. That's like
Hmm.
even salesman strategy, right? That's what they do.
When you're thinking about branding in a B2B sense,
Uh-huh.
we'll focus on the B2B because it's what we talk about here on
Sure.
this show. Um, I think there's always a little bit of debate or confusion amongst teams and people that I would talk with about what should we be branding? Should we be branding the company, or should we maybe be starting with branding some of the individuals in the company? Right? You spoke
Mm-hmm.
before about people. It's P2P, it's people to people. Right? It's how we really do business. And when I think about some of the brands that stand out to me within the LinkedIn ecosystem, for example, it's usually I know the people first, and then because I've started following the people, I start to become aware of the brand. How do you think about that in today's day and age? I know, for example, Dave Gerhardt, he wrote the book, Founder Brand. I'm guessing a lot of people have read it. It's all talking about that the founder, the personalities in the company should be the ones to build that personal brand, and then the transfer of that brand to the company. How do you think about that?
If you have a dynamic leader, yeah. If you don't, it becomes hard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Look, it's why to this day, if you say who are the top ad agencies, for example, you know, DDB, Doyle Dane Bernbach, Ogilvy, Droga Five, Wonderman, like there's a reason why agencies with people's names on it are more successful. I mean, there are other reasons why, but when you look at them, uh, they tend to be more successful because there's no guessing who the person is behind it, and you're attaching it with a name.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Definitely like during Ogilvy's lifetime, like when he was alive, right? That was a big, huge selling point. Same thing with Doyle, Dern, and Bernbach, and today. So like today it's interesting because you have like one of the top, I would say, ad agencies, right? Because it's B2B, right? It's the world I understand the best is Mischief. They're called Mischief at No Fixed Address. And everybody knows that there's a lot of creative geniuses there, but the creative genius there is a guy named Greg Hahn, right? Um, I think it's a disservice, honestly, calling it Mischief. I think if it was called Hahn and whatever, I think that it not necessarily would be more successful, but I think it would have a legacy. I think that it would be easier to grasp, and maybe even more people would. I don't know if they have any. I think they probably turn down business more than people turn them down, but at this point. But um, I think that there's something very powerful about a person's name, and about a person being in the B2B space being the main selling point of of a product, and it's just empirical. Gary Vaynerchuk, right, for
Even in a
example.
situation where the person isn't necessarily the product. And I understand in a creative agency, you want to have access to Ogilvy. You want Ogilvy working on your account, right? So he's the name because he's the personality that you want to connect to. But in reality, most people aren't going to be working with him, and he's not going to have any hands-on within any given project that they're working on for a client. So why is that person's brand so important to the agency?
I think it's a very, you know I think that the person has to be involved, or at least loosely involved. I know, like, when you read a lot of things about Doyle Durden, Burnback, or Ogilvy, for example, you would hear the question a lot. Well, did Bill look at this? Did Bill see this? There's a certain aspect of it where that person has to be involved. I don't see how a person who is not, in a B2B sense, a person is involved and is not the product. No, I think they have to be very much the product, because otherwise you get in very dangerous territory, where the same dangerous territory that B2C gets into, with either using the CEO as a spokesperson or a celebrity, right? There are a lot of successful B2C campaigns where the CEO is the spokesperson. It's usually because there's some sort of dynamic individual,
Mm-hmm.
Purdue, right? The Wendy's guy. Um, but other times, like with the Sprint, the CEO, right? Like, it could lead to other failure and disaster. And using celebrities is even riskier because they steal the attention away from the brand. Um, and so I'd imagine that if you, on the B2B level, had a person that wasn't a thought leader in the industry and part of the product, then you would be distracting heavily from you'd be distracting heavily from that product, especially on a B2B level. Because, like, what
Yeah,
is.
I mean, I think from my point of view, the way it has to work is that the individual within the company, be it a founder, be it a sales leader, some other executive, senior employee, they must be a subject matter expert, like you said. That's being public facing, but they're also going to be involved in the product or the messaging of the product and the sales of the product and all those things. So they're integral to the way that experience is being transferred over to the product, or over to the customer rather. And I think the same would be true in a service business. I remember speaking with Ralph Burns, the founder of an agency called Tier 11. They're a Facebook ads agency. They do a great job, great reputation. And, he explained, he doesn't work on every campaign. He's the face of the company. He runs their podcast. People know who he is. But when new clients come in, they don't expect that he's going to be running their account. There's a whole team of account managers that are doing that. But he's built the systems. He's built the team. He's created the whole infrastructure and the process that he's able to keep in control of, because he's got the managers, he's got the team. Everything's been built under his vision, and he's still got his finger on the pulse. So it doesn't mean that he's got to be the one delivering it, but you're buying into the thing that he has created and that he is running from a top level. And I think
100%.
that's
Yeah.
ultimately how it works.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's what Ogilvy did, DDB. An interesting one would be actually the Ted Bates agency, also in the 60s. The Bates agency, the main player there was a guy named Rosser Reeves. Rosser Reeves, whether you know it or not, Aaron, Rosser Reeves is your advertising forefather. This guy was
How's that?
they called him the Prince of Hard Sell. This guy was all about science. This guy invented the term unique selling proposition.
Okay.
This guy was all about direct marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he would disagree a lot with the tactics used by digital marketing in the sense that he believed that you run a campaign as long as it can go. You don't stop the minute it starts sinking. You keep that going because part of it is like getting it in people's heads. But anyway, but he wrote a book called I can't remember it right now. Anyway, but he wrote a book about about advertising. He was a big thought leader in the ad space, very much like the opposite of Burnback. Ogilvy is kind of in the middle, and then you have like this Rosser Reeves guy who's just like hard sell, hard sell, hard sell,
Yeah.
and and he was the name behind the Ted Bates agency. It wasn't called the Rosser Reeves agency; it was the Ted Bates agency, and he was the main creative director there and copywriter there. And so you have that happen sometimes. Um, and if it's not going to be Ted Bates, it's not going to be like the leader. It can be somebody else, but like you just said, they're it's because they're a thought leader. It's because they're an integral part of
Mm-hmm.
the business.
So you just touched on something which is actually my next question I wanted to ask you, which was the idea of direct response. So most of my career, I've been running Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, et cetera, on behalf of B2B and software companies. And generally, our objective is we're trying to acquire customers. We're trying to get them a free trial sign up. We're trying to get them, someone to come in and get on a demo call for their sales team. And the goal is someone sees an ad, someone clicks on the ad, they come and they convert based on whatever our conversion event, our objective is, direct response, right? You and I have had a bunch of conversations in the past about that topic where, you believe more strongly in branding, but there's also a place where those two things can play nicely together, where you can use direct response, and still accomplish a lot of these goals of branding. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I think it's important to note that I'm a rare breed in the sense that I grew up in my ad career doing both branding and direct response marketing. Um, David Ogilvy said that. Hold on one second. David Ogilvy. Right. So David Ogilvy said, David Ogilvy was his ads were, big ad campaigns, but I think, but his actually secret personal weapon is he used direct response in order to sell Ogilvy. He called it a secret weapon, and he says
Mm-hmm.
that every copywriter should begin in direct mail. At the time, it was just direct mail, because
Mm-hmm.
you very quickly learn what works and what doesn't work, and you can and I think even to this day you can tell when a brand advertiser, someone who's doing big brand campaigns, has worked in direct response before, because usually their branding ads are better because they're thinking in terms of the consumer. They're thinking, I still need to make a sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're
Having the
in,
end in mind already.
they're right. They're embedding things together. In truth, what I believe is that the best ad can look. There is a time for just doing pure brand awareness. There is a time for just doing direct response ads. Um, Usually, if you can, it's all happening at the same time at different ends of a funnel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the best ads are generally, to me, ones that are doing both at the same time. Um,
So how do we accomplish that? How do we accomplish both of those goals at the same time?
well, it depends. It depends on the medium you're using, and it depends on it depends on the medium you're using, and it depends on the circumstances that the where the company is. Because, for example, uh, when a company first launches, right, they need sales. So you generally want to go 60-40, right? 60% direct response, 40% brand, right? And you can either do that by doing two different things, or you can do it by trying to combine both of them, the Dollar Shave Club, approach. And
Mm-hmm.
and then after you get the sales up, you want to very quickly in your second and third year switch it to 60-40, 60% brand and 40% direct response. The reason for that is because it's a lot easier for people to buy from you when they know who you are. Period. End of story. When a
Mm-hmm.
salesman walks into a store, if they have no idea who you are, you have a harder time selling them. If they know who you are already, it's a lot easier to make the sale. And that's just the way advertising used to work. That was just sort of the common knowledge, um, that that you didn't start with 100% direct response. Now, in terms of doing that anyway, if you have a company that just wants to do digital marketing on Facebook, so this is why I said the medium is very important, because a television commercial or a YouTube commercial, when you're watching YouTube or you're watching television, I think the term, what do the kids today call it, linear, right? It's a different watching experience. So you're watching something, then the commercials come on and sort of interrupt, right? And you don't have a choice. So with those types of things, you can move a little slower. You can have an opening establishing shot of a house. You don't have to immediately go and grab people's attention. You don't need to,
Because you're
right?
not trying to stop a scroll. They're sitting there anyways, waiting for their show to come back on.
Right. YouTube's a little bit different. You have to deal with the skip now button sometimes, but but even then, you still it's a different, right. The medium is the message, so it's a different viewing experience. But when you're scrolling like this, you have like zero point 0.3 seconds, right, to get that person's attention, and so you hear all the techniques about going like this and blah blah blah, and whatnot. Um, so if somebody like doesn't want to be on YouTube and they just want to like do the Facebook ads or the TikTok ads and whatnot, and um, you have to make it very clear to them that it's very, very, very difficult to build a brand that way. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult based on the nature of what those ads are set up to be, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
set up to be, get your attention, click now, right? Facebook really doesn't care about, they have the brand awareness, branding campaign algorithms, but like it's very hard to track that stuff.
That's not
So,
how why most of us use it.
right, it's not why most of people use it, although it should be, right? I mean, if you think about it, it's cheaper to just have like a billboard, your
But
brand
much harder to
appear,
measure.
appear
And I think that's one of the other pieces also
right.
is that brand is very hard to measure versus direct response.
Well, it's not. The way that it's not is that if you do brand correctly, you should see an uplift in your direct response when you then remove it. And you should also see a decrease in your cost per acquisition. It's your direct response. In the olden days, when they would do direct, they would combine direct. The magic formula was combining direct mail with TV commercials, targeted TV commercials in an
Mm-hmm.
area with direct mail. The TV commercials would bring down the cost of the direct mail,
Mm-hmm.
right? The
And
cost
I
per
guess you can test
acquisition,
that by having one geographic area that gets just
right?
TV, one that gets just the mail, and then one that gets both.
I mean, here's a perfect example. The best example is Geico. So Geico, at least in the 80s and 90s, everybody knew Geico for the TV commercials, really really funny TV commercials. Nobody bought Geico insurance because of those commercials. At least, like, at least directly, right? But what it did is it definitely made them known. It definitely made them seem this fun brand. And then what they do is they
Right.
send you direct mail. If they can now online, if they sense that you're looking for insurance, they'll pop up and stuff like that. And the brand assets are always attached to it. It's always the Geico. Think about their tagline. 15 minutes or less will save you 15% or more on your car insurance. You can't get more direct responsey in a branded tagline than that, right? That is like pure. It's like
Yeah.
just pure. It's just what it, it's a sale,
It's all results.
right? It's a result. So that is really the perfect example of of combining the two and the magic that can happen. Now, that's if you're doing, brand awareness campaigns, like pure brand awareness campaigns, and then pure directors, like separately. There is an ability to do both. Um, that the law firm, the getting lawyers to subscribe to the London Times, right? That is
Hmm.
that is a really good example of a brand response campaign, because that happened within a direct response medium, but it was very brandy and very creative. It brought attention to the brand, but within the direct response, direct mail medium.
Yep.
So the way you do that digitally, uh, at first I was like, how is it being done digitally? How's it being done digitally? I couldn't figure it out. And then I realized the way that it's being done digitally, well, the first examples of it is you have Dollar Shave Club. So what they do is they go and they create like a 2-3 minute hero video that's really funny, really engaging, that taps into the culture, that everybody starts talking about, quoting, just like a regular TV commercial, but it's a 2-3 minute video. So 2-3 minutes, very direct responsey, right? So it's like a very creative, it's like a brand ad in a direct response time period video world, because it's on YouTube. And then what they do is they take that hero and anchor video, and they use the brand assets all the way down the funnel. So even an empty cart ad or a retargeting ad, has the unicorn, the pooping unicorn, or the this or the, so they integrate that, into it, and it's very much the Geico approach. It's the same thing, I
Yep.
think. And that's what you see a lot of brands doing that. And if you want to do that, the agencies to go to, right? Like, you go to Chamber
Harman Brothers.
Media, Harman Brothers, exactly.
Yep.
Um, I think that we're ready for the next level of that. And I think that the next level for that is, look, you can do things worth what, I'm going to talk as a writer. You can do things worth writing about. I mean, sorry, you can write things worth reading, or you can do things worth writing about. So I think that what we're beginning to see already is that brands are going to start doing things like Mr. Beast style,
Hmm.
right? Making that content their own kind of content organic channel, using organic a lot more, and then taking these popular organic posts and then turning that into paid stuff that goes down the funnel. Because there's no reason why that anchor has to be a high production video. It could be anything. It could be walking around giving out money. It could be a stunt. It could be,
Yeah.
whatever you want
We
it to
see
be.
Honda doing that now with the helpful Honda guy. He's basically
The
doing that stunt to giving away money, and that's their thing.
helpful Honda days, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
look, also on a very, very basic level, even if what you're doing is just regular, even if the client's like, look, I just want these direct response ads or whatever. The one thing that I at least push for is say, okay, well, look, at least mention the name of the brand. You'd be surprised how many direct response ads never even mention the name of the brand, or
Yeah.
they just put the logo at the end. But it's a disservice. You want people, right? Don't you want people like I can't tell you how many times I've seen an ad for something, a B2B ad for something, and I can't remember the name of um and I remember the service, some AI thing that did this or whatever, but I can't remember the name of the brand because it had some funny name or this or that. If they had simply just repeated the name of the brand 3 to 5 times, um, and or incorporated it somehow into the creative in a funny or cute way, then then I would then when I was like looking it up later to try to find it, I would have an easier time doing it.
Yeah, that was a
And
trick that you taught me a few years ago that we started incorporating into the ads that my agency did, which is like, hey, we're making ads anyway, so let's just make sure we're saying the brand name 3 to 5 times.
yeah, it's really, I mean, at least do that, and that's a lesson from brand awareness that you can incorporate into your direct response, and you could start doing that today. And will that cause an increase in clicks of that ad? No, maybe, I don't know. It depends how creative you are with it, but will it, I think, lead to more sales over time? Provided that your product's good and the ads are working. Yeah, it'll
Yeah,
actually.
you can get more referrals that way. The fact that
Yeah,
somebody recognizes the name and associates it with positive things, they're going to be more likely to remember it and mention it to somebody else as well.
yeah, and I guess the way you'd probably see that is you'd be like, oh, look at all of these sort of organic search,
Yeah,
organic search, leads,
right.
that turn to
For branded
sales.
search, right?
Like that is, it. I think just overall, if people just stopped segmenting it in their minds and they
Mm-hmm.
said, you know what, we have this product, we want this person to buy it. You start thinking about maybe other types of people that want to buy it, and then and then you just say, okay, what is the best way to get these people's attention? And don't think, okay, if it's going to be on Facebook, so then you got to follow these rules and stuff. But don't think in terms of direct response and brand
Mm-hmm.
response. Just think in terms of like, it's an ad. What's the best way to use this medium to get people's attention?
Right.
And I think you'll be good. My favorite example is figs.
Uh huh.
You know,
Scrubs, medical
the
scrubs.
the designer scrubs. This
Yep.
is this is a fascinating one because they think about it. If you're making designer scrubs, so okay, interesting product. Scrubs are baggy. They don't look good. People want to look good, I guess, when they're saving their people's lives and whatnot. So you would think that the obvious thing to do would be to go to digital marketing and um, and target people who work in hospitals, right? Easiest thing to do. Go on
Yep.
Facebook, find people who work, and make sure that they see the ads. They didn't do that. Not only did they didn't do that at all. They took their entire marketing budget and used it to make billboards. They used it on
Right.
billboards, and they had models. They picked cities with major hospitals, and they had the models in figs, and that was it. And I remember hearing somebody talking about hearing the CMO talking about why they didn't do that, why they did it that way, and they didn't use digital marketing. And the CMO asked the person, said, "Well, let me ask you a question. You've seen the billboards? Yes. Do you have friends that work in hospitals? Yes. The When you saw them at a party or at some sort of function or catching up with them, did you ask them if they wore these figs that you see everywhere? Yeah." And the person said, "Yes, I did." It's like, how much do you think that that's worth to me? That's worth to me the fact that you don't work in a hospital, you don't, you're not going to wear it, but you know what they are. If you know what they are, they for sure know what they are, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Is like that is worth more to me than all the immediate sales that I could get. Because what they then did is after they did this mass awareness with the billboards, then they did the digital, and their cost per acquisition was like nothing because
Right.
everyone knew what they were already. And like that to me is, if you have the money, you have to have the money to do that, right? Obviously, but if you can't buy billboards, there's got to be something else you can do to get mass awareness. You know what Red Bull did? Red Bull wanted to break into the market in London. They didn't have any good ad budget. but they wanted to become like the drink of kids, 21-year-old, not kids, 21 to 25-year-old. That was the
Millennials.
target,
Yeah.
millennials at the time. They didn't have an ad budget. You know what they did? It's genius. They didn't buy billboards. They didn't do that. They got they collected a whole bunch of Red Bull cans and went all over LA and filled up the public trash cans with them.
Okay. Who's looking in the trash cans?
Well, no, the trash cans were just spilling over with Red Bulls
So they litter.
everywhere you went. So it looked like this, like everybody's drinking Red Bulls. Sales went through the roof.
Interesting.
Everybody wanted to drink the drink that everyone's drinking. It's not. That's what I'm saying. It's people. You got to do the brand awareness. You got to buy billboards. It helps. I'm not going to lie. If you have the budget of Barbie, you could do great things. But like but in a way, when you don't have the budget, that's when the really cool stuff ideas start coming out, right? And
marketing.
So, whatever you want to call it, like that's just where you can get really creative and a lot more noticed, in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't know. You've got unlimited stories when it comes to the creative marketing campaigns that have gone, and I appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone's enjoying the stories. But I would be remiss if I didn't direct our conversation a little bit to talk about LinkedIn, content writing, thought leadership. You're a huge personality when it comes to that on Facebook, like I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation. I mean, can you share with them? I mean, how many impressions do you get a month on your LinkedIn post, if you don't mind sharing that?
I have to look that up. Let's see. I can look that up.
Because I'll tell you, because what I see is you're posting once or twice a day and getting hundreds of likes and comments and shares on every one of those posts, right? Incredible reach and incredible influence, I would imagine.
So this is how much I don't care about these things.
Okay.
Let me ask you, Aaron, where would I even go to look to see this?
I know I could find it in the back end of my account, but I wouldn't be able to direct you how to click into your profile to find it right now. But that's okay. It's clearly a lot.
So I have 60 right now. Under it says analytic and tools. I guess I can click there. Post impressions. I guess that is based on post impressions in the past 7 days. 69,776.
So 69,000 in 7 days. It's called 70,000. So on a monthly basis, you're pushing 300,000 based on that. Let's guess. It's a lot of eyeballs on your content.
Yeah. It's a brand awareness game.
Yeah. So
that's what I tell people.
Talking about your thoughts with that, personal brand awareness, personal brand building on LinkedIn, and how you've been leveraging that both to build your agency. I know now you're building a ghostwriting business where you're creating great content on behalf of a select few clients as well. Unpack that for me.
Unpack. Where do I begin? I just started posting on LinkedIn mainly to get thoughts that were in my head out, and to learn how to write less on demand. So at the time you were limited by 2,000 characters, not 3,000 characters. And so it's like, okay, well, and I really just loved advertising and marketing, and nobody on Instagram or Facebook really cared about this stuff. So I just started sharing it, what I was learning basically on LinkedIn. So sometimes I would like read a book and then I would basically rewrite what I read, the insight that I read as I'm not going to lie, as my own thought, not giving any attribution, right. To see if I could distill what that thought or theory or whatever in a simple way so that other people could understand it. And then I just started doing it obviously with my own thoughts and my own experiences and whatnot. And that's how this began. And people.
And how long ago was this? How many years ago did you start this?
I started the Thanksgiving before. I always was kind of on LinkedIn, but I really started getting say I'm going to post something every day. That around the Thanksgiving before the pandemic. So 2019.
So we're going back to 2019. So we're pushing 4 years now.
Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah.
So consistency. This is not about something people should expect to get to Justin's levels by doing this for 2 months.
It's not impossible to do it. I'm just very skeptical.
Yeah.
Um, and and if you do it, you're doing it in that sort of direct response sort of way, and those are the people that you're getting.
Content gating and all that. Leave a
Yeah,
comment if you want to get my PDF.
I never knew to focus on algorithm stuff. I never knew. All I did was inspired by Ryan Holiday, the guy at Daily Stoic. So I read somewhere every
Yeah.
day he sends out an email about Stoicism, and he doesn't look at the metrics. He just sits and all he does is focus on just providing great content. So I said, I'm just going to do the same. And look, I have a leg up. I'm a copywriter, right? So when if I use tricks, the tricks and whatever hacks, whatever that I use are all basically writing tricks and hacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and in the beginning, I didn't have a schedule. I didn't have anything. I just write whatever was interesting that day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then I started look, it became a little time consuming, so I would write whenever I wanted, and then I would just plop it into a scheduler, and it would just start. It would post it whenever it wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
during the time. Then I started with regular things, like every Friday I do an advertising history post, and every Sunday I do a book review. Um, and but really that's as um, formulaic as it gets. At the end of the day, it's interesting. My most popular post is this where people say I broke the format. I wrote a dialogue between a creative director and a CEO, and it
Mm-hmm.
really makes the CEO look like a stupid idiot, But at the end, the CEO is like, "Oh, I like this guy. You proved me right." And everybody
Mm-hmm.
was like, all the creative people, like, "Yeah, yeah." I remember I posted that. I had millions of impressions or whatever. I couldn't turn on my LinkedIn for like 2 days because it was just like it just looked like I'd turn it on and be like boom, 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 boom. Like it was pretty crazy. And I was thinking to myself, because of that, I know Gary Vaynerchuk doesn't sign on to LinkedIn and post things, because if mine was like that from just one thing, his every one of his posts is like that. So you can't even use the app when it's like that. What's interesting to me is that post, by all intents and purposes, should turn off people to me, right? CEO should read that and be like, I don't want to work with a guy who talks to me like that, or whatnot. But after posting that post, I got so much business, not from that post, but because obviously that post did something to me, to the algorithm, so that when somebody typed in copywriter or whatever, my name came up on top, right? Like it, and the fact that I post every day, like all of these things, contributed to, to that radical increase in business. So much so that I know that whenever I write a post that that gets over 1,500 likes, I know that I'm going to get business inquiries.
Mm-hmm.
Not from that post, sometimes from that post. Now, here's the other most interesting thing: 99% of all my business inquiry posts on LinkedIn come from people that I am not connected to, that have never commented on my post and never liked a post.
Uh-huh. So they're discovering you for the first time that day based on whatever your new
No,
content is.
no, 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 no. They've been lurking, they've been reading, they've been seeing me,
Uh-huh.
right? And it's just that, right? Our business, marketing, advertising, it's not a buy now business. We have to stop treating it that way. It's a when I need you business. So we just have to constantly be putting ourselves out there,
Yeah.
so that when they're not happy with their current marketing, or when this or that or whatever, or they have a friend that needs, right? They're like, oh, this guy posts on LinkedIn all the time. He seems pretty smart. Maybe I should speak to him, right? And that's generally what happens. So you can post anything. There's these people, they have these rules. We're going to do top funnel, middle funnel, this, that. It really doesn't matter. You could just write stories, funny things, whatever it is that's like kind of like with you. I mean, it should be tied a little bit to things, but as long as you're generating that awareness or whatever, so it does need to be tied at least somewhat to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the general rule I have, and this is about everything, is not just LinkedIn, but it's 70, 20, 10. So 70% of my posts are posts that I know will work. And by work, I mean like the content's going to be like good. People are going to get something out of it. I'm not talking, I'm not talking about I'm going to get likes and comments. I'm talking about this is going to help people. 70%,
Yeah. We're
right?
providing value.
Yeah. 20% is going to be like repurposed stuff or, um, you know, um, more hard hitting stuff. Like if I need more customers or, right. And then 10%, and this is every week, 10% is just pure experimental. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to like I have tons of posts that bomb. Most people never see them. I see them. That's the great thing about LinkedIn. If a post bombs, great. Who
No one
cares?
sees it, right?
No one sees it anyway except you. So,
Exactly.
right.
I'd
And
imagine your bomb of a bad post, you're probably getting more eyeballs than my good ones, but
no, I wrote a post a week ago that got 8 likes. I mean, and I'm averaging like 500, 700 likes.
wow.
This got 8 likes, and it was posted like 6 a.m. in the morning. It was, for whatever reason, it just didn't jive, and it was an experimental
Yep.
post. Like it was definitely a new type of post.
Mm-hmm.
I was being very sarcastic and very witty, um, leading them in the wrong direction and then flipping it at the end. That
Uh-huh.
doesn't seem to work on LinkedIn. But yeah, I think it it's it is a very much a showing up and brand awareness game.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot just keep showing up and selling yourself, man. Like that's boring and no one wants to be around that. You just write about what's on your mind.
Yeah. The key is to add value and to entertain.
Add value and entertain.
Yeah. That's pretty much what
Or
it looks like you're doing
entertain
every day.
or entertain and add value. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
And,
and
and,
so
and and now, I mean, just as I'll make a shameless plug for you, I mean, and now you're doing this on behalf of clients also, right? You've become a ghostwriter recently, where you're taking your skills and working with a select handful of clients to do similar for them.
yeah, I realized that I was working with one of these sales consultants. So he had me kind of go and say, okay, find the reason why people want to work with you. And so everyone that came from LinkedIn basically wanted to work with me because they liked my posts.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason in their head, sometimes they could translate that over to like, well, he writes those posts well, but that's not going to be good for what I need. But anyway, the point is it was the post. So he said, have you ever thought about providing that as a service? And you had mentioned that to me several times as well.
That's
But
right.
it's sometimes when the person that you're giving money to says it, it means a lot more than when somebody who's
Then when I
not
say it to
paying.
you,
Yeah, exactly.
because I don't know how many
So
times I told you to become a ghostwriter before you decided to take the other guy's advice to become a ghostwriter.
right. So and what I and so here's the other thing. You ready for this? This is just amazing. So what I did is I just started putting that at the bottom of my posts. Still reading like my posts, which you could write posts like this, become a thought leader. Uh, you know, I grossed over $1 million from my agency just from LinkedIn alone last year, and posting high quality posts like this. Reach out to me, just very high transparent. Here are the price ranges. So I
Mm-hmm.
did that, and with, within within 2 or 3 weeks, I got 5 or 6 clients. So that
Yeah,
makes you think.
incredible.
That makes you pivot, right? Like that makes you kind of think, oh, wait a second. But
There's something there.
not only that, but those clients also end up wanting more than just ghostwriting. They want kind of PR, publicity, help, getting them into conferences if they have to write a blog post, if they have to write a speech, a lot of other things, right? But here's the other part about it. Think about this and I thought about this too in terms of my ad agency, Oberman and Partners, right? I'd been posting on LinkedIn for basically 2-3 years. I never really finished the Oberman Partners website. I think I put 2 pieces of work up there, right? I barely advertised. I never advertised for it. I barely wrote a post showing my own work.
Mm-hmm.
I barely sold my agency, talked about my agency, anything like that. I just posted. And I got, in 1 year, I grossed over $1 million with a crappy website with messaging that was all over the place and even had typos. Like I even forgot about my website for a while.
Mm-hmm.
This LinkedIn business, this LinkedIn ghostwriting business, I got 6 clients, high paying monthly clients with no website, no ads, no nothing.
Because your LinkedIn profile spoke for itself. It's
My
our
LinkedIn
friend.
my LinkedIn profile.
Our friend Dylan Chaccio always talks about the fact that your LinkedIn profile should serve as a landing page and should present yourself properly with the way you need to be presented to the world, and that'll drive your leads and your sales.
He has a lot of good posts on that, yeah. But think about that for a second. Not only that, but none of my posts at that time, I started doing it now, but none of them, I've started doing it now and I get less leads. How about that? None of my posts that I stuck the thing at the bottom for
Mm-hmm.
were about LinkedIn ghostwriting or how to write a good LinkedIn post. One of them was like making fun of different type of copywriting from the perspective of a romance novel. I got 3 ghostwriting jobs from that post. Nothing to do with ghostwriting. Nothing.
Uh-huh.
Right? And when I started, because I got scared or whatever, I guess, so I started writing posts about giving LinkedIn tips and stuff like that. I think I got a few clients from that, but ultimately not as many as I got when I was just sticking it at the bottom. I still don't have a website, so
Uh-huh.
I'm working on it. But that's a pretty remarkable thing when you think about it.
Yeah.
All of
I
these
think
things
building a
that people.
brand.
Well, I mean, there is a brand. There's something going. It's just a brand doesn't have to be what you think it is.
Well, it doesn't have to have a website, but you've built a tremendous brand. The
Right.
fact that you've got hundreds of thousands of people seeing and reading your content every month, visiting your profile, thinking about you, you're staying top of mind because they're probably each of these people is seeing you multiple times by the fact that you're posting every day and getting that kind of reach. I know I see you in my feed multiple times per week. That's the brand. You don't need a website for that.
Yeah, I guess you don't. But you
You've proven that.
you also don't. You know what I've also never done? I've never I've read Alex Hormozy's $100 million offers, but I didn't do any of the things that he said in there. I've never sat down and been like, okay, who am I? Okay, here's the formula. I help do da-da-da. Like now that I'm writing my website, I have like a thing like I help busy executives become thought leaders on LinkedIn. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
I never actually sat and thought. I didn't do any of these things, these courses.
Well, I might argue that you have the advantage that you have so many eyeballs that even without doing things what might be called the right way, you'll still have some people come through and you'll find success. I would venture that for the regular person who's maybe getting a couple thousand impressions off their LinkedIn, 10,000, 20,000 impressions off their LinkedIn every month, they might need to have a higher batting average, a better conversion rate, so to speak, off of their content than you do, because you're just getting so many at bats.
But think about what you just said, Mr. DR man. You just told me that because of brand awareness, I don't even need to do direct response to a certain extent. That's a weird thing. It's because it's one and the same, right?
No, listen, I'm don't get me wrong.
These...
I'm a huge believer in brand, right?
Yeah, right.
And I think we're not going to get into this today, I guess, but I think more and more B2B companies do need to be building that brand awareness, because as you said before, most people aren't in market for any given product at any given time. I think LinkedIn actually put out a stat recently saying that for most B2B services or products, 95% of your target audience, your ICP, ideal customer persona aren't in market right now, which means you need to build that brand, because when they become in market for whatever the thing is that you're offering, you want to make sure you're one of the first people that they think about, because they've seen you when they weren't looking for it yet. So I believe very strongly that it actually has to be a huge emphasis building brand. I think we often put that on steroids, or add fuel to the fire, so to speak, by running ads, thought leadership ads, all kinds of content ads, etc., in order to get more of our target audience to see the thing. The point I was trying to make is that you've got the people seeing your stuff already. And therefore, that even if your conversion rate from, let's say, impression to lead is minuscule, because in theory it is, you're getting handful of clients every month off of 300,000 impressions, versus somebody else who might be getting 10,000 impressions, let's say, every month. They need to have a better conversion rate of those people to clients if they're going to build a business like you are, or they just got to learn how to create content like you.
Yeah, which is why my ghostwriting is ghostwriting and coach writing. Mm-hmm. So there are for a nice big fee, I will write everything for you. But what I prefer to do is do a hybrid where I'm writing some stuff for you, but you're also telling me what you want to write about, and then I'm helping you and showing you how to craft and do it yourself. But what I think that you said is very interesting, because when you think about it, and this will be a little sales pitch for me, I guess, is that one of the quickest ways to get that brand awareness for a company that is just starting out, a startup or whatever, is through founder or whoever thought leadership. Mm-hmm. It's a very affordable way of doing it, especially working with me. The key, though, is, and this is what I'm doing currently with my clients, is the key is you got to stand out. You got to be edgy. You got to be taking, risk. You have a stance.
Yeah, do something different.
If you're not willing to do that, then it's possible to do it another way, like just being funny or this or that or goofy or whatever. But on LinkedIn, you got to have some thick skin. I get trolls. I get all of these things too, and you got to be ready for that. But that's what's going to make you stand out, by taking an alternate point of view. I'll give the listeners right now, if you're thinking about writing LinkedIn, and one of the things I hear about, right, like ghostwriting, what are the three things? I don't know how to write. I don't have the time. And I don't know what to write about. Coming up with ideas. People ask me all the time, how do you come up with an idea every day to write? I'm like, I got more ideas. You have no idea. That's not my problem. I have too many ideas. But one really fast hack that could probably keep you busy for a month is just, and also begin to position you as a thought leader. It's a hack, is to just think about all the things in your industry that people take for granted, thoughts, assumptions that people just make, that they just say. In marketing, people will say, people don't have attention spans anymore. People don't have long attention spans anymore. You got to keep things short. So you just come out and say, BS. If people don't have long attention spans anymore, then how come there are people in England that will watch cricket matches for 5 days? How come people watch Lord of the Rings for 3.5 hours? The extended series. People's attention spans haven't changed. They haven't gotten shorter. Your content just sucks. Period.
Good point.
End of story. And so you write that, and you're going to get like, and then you're going to get a whole bunch of people going, no, that's not true. This study, blah, 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 blah. Right? Who cares? Right? All that is, but so you just, long copy is better than short copy. Short copy is better than long copy. You say, you know what? Neither one is better than
good copy is better than bad copy.
Oh, sorry. So, you just say, instead of about how long it is or how short it is, write like somebody has to pee. If you keep that in your mind, somebody has to pee, then people will hold it in if the movie's good. So write like someone has to pee. Keep them as long as you can. And like people and so that's but first of all, that's good advice. But it's also like what I was just saying, like you're debunking a myth. So just find myths in your find things that people just say, and and prove them wrong. And it's not that hard, because there are no truisms in life. There no such thing as black and white. So you could do this about almost anything.
Yeah. Let me ask you. We've been here an hour already. I know you've probably got things to do in your day. I usually wrap up with a quick lightning round. I don't tell people the questions in advance unless you've listened to past podcast episodes. A couple quick questions, a couple quick answers, and we'll wrap things up about that. How about that?
All right.
So I know you're a big reader. What book would you recommend listeners to read? Could be a business advertising book, could be a fiction book, nonfiction, anything.
Has to be one book.
I'll give you two if you want.
Okay. If you're in advertising and marketing specifically, you have to read the Book of Gossage. Howard Gossage is my advertising idol. He is the perfect example of brand response. He wrote in a direct marketing style, but his campaigns were completely off the wall. When you read the Book of Gossage and you go down the Howard Gossage rabbit hole, you will never view advertising or marketing the same way again, for the better.
Okay. What's your second book?
The second book is The Art of Money Getting by P.T. Barnum.
Okay. That's a new one for me.
P.T. Barnum, and that is for anybody in business. A lot of people don't.
The circus fame.
Yeah. Well, P.T. Barnum started the circus in his 60s. But before that, he sold lottery tickets. He had the Barnum Museum. He was America's second self-made millionaire. He lost everything. He got it back again by going on public speaking tours. He invented mass advertising. He invented publicity. He invented PR. He invented the circus. He invented there's a certain real estate thing where you sell every other plot of land, you like give it away in order to have people move in, but it increases the property. He invented that. He's called the Shakespeare of advertising. He's also called one of the founding fathers of advertising.
Okay. I already want to read the book.
He invented so many business ways of doing business today, and so many people are ashamed of it because they think of it as a humbug, shyster, Greatest Showman type stuff. You watch the movie Greatest Showman, you see his genius. But the man was a genius, and what's really interesting about him is he was everything in one. So he didn't think of direct response, brand awareness, or any of these things. He just thought, how am I going to get people to come to my museum or this attraction or this? And he just used every single means that he could. Mm-hmm. And the best piece of advice that he's got a lot of advice in. So The Art of Money Getting is the speech. Oh, he invented influencer. He invented the B2B influencer. He invented the speaking tour as well. So when he lost all of his money in some deal. So he went on a speaking tour about how he became successful. And that's what this book is. And tons of people went on the speaking tour and read the book that he published from it and became successful from following his advice. My favorite piece of advice, besides the fact that he says that you should spend on advertising liberally, he says, in your first year of business, if you do this, you will never have a single problem gaining customers again. He says, after you pay yourself and after you pay off whatever things that you have to do, you take 100% of your earnings and spend it on advertising. And for him, advertising meant PR, publicity. He goes, so much so that you don't even know what to spend it on. You should be like, I have $10,000. What the hell do I do with this? And he would do crazy things because of that. Crazy things. He goes, you do that in your first year, you'll become so well known that it'll be impossible for the competition to infringe on you or do anything like that.
Okay.
It just seems like good advice. Anyway.
Good advice. I definitely want to check it out now. What's your favorite marketing or productivity tool right now?
Well, according to my iPhone, LinkedIn is not a social media tool; it's a productivity tool.
Okay, I'll take that then.
I love Trello.
Who's your favorite marketer?
I'm a big fan of Trello. I stick with Trello.
Trello.
I like to be able to move things. I like the physicality of it. So Trello is my favorite tool right now.
Perfect. Who's your favorite marketer or business leader that you're learning from these days?
That's alive?
Let's go with that.
I have a lot of dead heroes, you know. Wow. The fact that I even have to pause and think about this.
So there's so many?
Yeah.
Or so few?
No, there's not so many, but there's like a group, right?
We'll pick one.
The problem is that they're different for different reasons.
Pick one. We'll assume it's not necessarily your number one favorite.
Bob Hoffman.
So who?
His name is Bob Hoffman.
Okay.
He's the guy. Right now his nickname is the Ad Contrarian. He's a former ad guy from San Francisco, and he is basically exposing and ripping apart the digital marketing industry, exposing all of the flaws and cheating and ineffectiveness. And it's not entirely that I agree with him 100% on everything, but I really admire I like iconoclasts. So he's like the big iconoclast right now.
Okay. And finally, last question. Where can our listeners go to learn more about you and connect with you?
LinkedIn.
Okay. So
my
recommend everybody go check out
my
Justin
websites
Oberman
are
on
pretty
LinkedIn.
garbage. You know?
Definitely follow his content. What's garbage? Sorry?
My websites are garbage. You know, LinkedIn.com/in/Justin Oberman. Send a request. I will
follow Justin Oberman on LinkedIn. You will not regret it. His content comes out daily. It comes out, as we said before, educational and valuable and entertaining. You'll enjoy it. Anyways, Justin, thank you so much. Been a fantastic conversation. I know I've learned a lot. I'm sure the audience has learned a lot as well.
Yeah, had a lot of fun. Thank you.